Fasta mai, Ceish Sonnet Dirt. Good afternoon and happy Easter to you all. I will begin today's briefing with the update of the results from our very hard-working and dedicated staff at the Health Department. Since the last update yesterday at 4 p.m, there have been 3 further confirmed positive tests for coronavirus, taking the overall total confirmed cases in the Isle of Man to 204. 192 patients have been instructed to self-isolate and 11 are being treated at Nobles Hospital. There have been 1,820 concluded tests and 114 people awaiting results. The number of individuals who are presumed recovered from the virus is now at 112. And I would just like to say that everyone at Nobles Hospital, all recovering from home, including our very own Chief Minister Howie, we wish you a very speedy recovery. Now, I know this weekend is a difficult weekend for everyone. Why? Because of the conditions you're living in, the restricted living that you have, the fact that you can't go to work, you can't be with your friends, your family, or even actually exercise your faiths. But what we want you to do is to remain vigilant. We want you to stay at home where you can. We want you to exercise social distancing when you do that essential shopping, and also that daily exercise, which is why I thought I might tell you a little story. Last night I went out for my daily exercise. I'm very fortunate, like all of you, to have the beautiful Isle of Man on our doorstep. For me, I decided to walk out toward the chasms. Through Glen Chas, looking down on beautiful Purwick Bay in Port Lamora, there's a lovely little bench, the Ned Madrill bench. Some of you know it. There's a very unassuming and modest plaque, Manx stone plaque. You can miss it very easily. Now, Ned Madrill, some of you know, was our last Manx native Gaelic speaker. Lived from 1877 to 1974. So when I sat on that bench looking at that beautiful still night here on the Isle of Man, I wondered, what would Ned Madrill think of these times? What question would I ask Ned under these conditions? If I asked Ned, I'm sure he would turn around and he would say, Tre de lua. We know it. The perfect translation is time enough. But also, he would say, don't panic. And I think that is the essence of the Manx spirit. Ned would also tell me, nearly living 100 years, of all the experiences the Isle of Man has gone through. Difficult times, troubling times, loss of life, world wars 1 and 2, polio, Spanish flu, goodness knows what, tough times. And he would say, Tre de lua, do not panic. And that is exactly what we are trying to do as a government. We are trying to deal with this matter in an orderly fashion, a well-informed, measured fashion. And we know our health professionals are working around the clock to keep you safe. And that's why we ask you to continue to be vigilant with these measures that we've introduced. Now, being the Minister of Enterprise, clearly the economy is of big interest. There is a lot of consideration, and we have rolled out a number of support measures with our colleagues in Treasury. There are 8 different schemes out there now, and applications are pouring in. I recognise it might be confusing, but do enter the government website and do the click down to find out which scheme may be applicable to you. If you have a question, enterprisesupport@gov.im, and we will try and call you back. But those schemes are being overwhelmed at the moment with our officers who are working right the way around the clock to try and process this. The business support scheme, for example, has nearly 3,000 applications. We processed nearly 1/3 of those already, and we will continue to process them through this weekend. So what I would like to do is also think about when you go out for a walk. Look at those flags. That fills me with immense pride, Manx pride. And you don't have to be born here to have that pride, because those many people who moved to the Isle of Man, the new Manx as I call them, that embrace our culture, our heritage, they also have pride. I look at those rainbows in the windows. That fills me with hope. And when I talk to people, I hear resilience, I hear innovation, and I hear that we are going to get through this. So with that, I've gone a little bit different in this particular presentation, but I just wanted to share that story with you. And I would now like to invite questions from our press, who are also working hard at the moment. And thank you for attending. So Paul, you're up first.
Well, I was going to call him Mr. Quayle, but you're calling him Howie. I used to call him H. But before I ask the main question, can you just give us an update on how he is, please?
Yes, I haven't spoken to him today. However, he has been chairing meetings and has continued to work, and do see responses coming through from emails and so forth. And he is in good spirits, and I know he would want to, he and Lorraine and the whole family would like to say thank you to everyone on the Isle of Man for their overwhelming good wishes. So we believe he's in good spirits.
Thank you. Okay, well, my question really, first one leads on for this. The National Strategy Group, you have Gold Team, Silver Team. Obviously, you've got a man down as such. I mean, at some point, how it'll lead to convalesce, presumably. I mean, it depends, obviously, how bad it's going to be. But there's no second in command as such, is there? When he goes on holiday, sometimes it's you, it might be Alvin, whatever. Has that now been changed, more formal footing, to have a Deputy Chief Minister that can take over if necessary?
No, there's nothing formal in place as it stands. And what I would suggest to you, Paul, is council ministers as a team really work together. And then individually, you see the departments actually work together. So, for example, our members in Department for Enterprise with Treasury are working very, very closely on the economic impact and understanding where we go forward. So we each have different delegated roles and responsibilities. So that and all that work continues right the way through, Paul.
Another question is construction. I'm hearing maybe potential that you can get started again. Anything you want to tell us on that?
Yes, well, we clearly we recognise we made a decision to go quite hard, quite strong with regards to construction. Gardeners is another one, of course, window cleaners and various other activities which social distancing can occur quite clearly. But what we're trying to do here, Paul, is that we're trying to make our decisions in a measured way that we know where we are, particularly from a health perspective. So we're gaining data, very helpful data every single day. So as we can understand where we are on that all essential curve, that we can manage it, because ultimately it comes down to our health system and their capacity. So we're working very, very closely with them. We had a workshop only this morning with Treasury Minister and I with some of their health professionals to understand where they are in this modelling. So construction would clearly be one of the industries I think that would be one of the first to come back in terms of normality, gardening and window cleaning following on from that. Thank you, Paul. And I think next we have Jess from Isle of Man Newspapers. First of all, Jess.
Hello, Minister Skelly. I've got my two questions. So firstly, could you give a comment on the unemployment figures for March, which were the highest in 5 years? And secondly, whilst we acknowledge it may be a good few months before we are able to kickstart the economy again, what plans have you discussed about that process? And have businesses been involved in those discussions?
Thank you, Jess. Really good question. 3 points to that there. Unemployment is predictably going up, and I think it's reached the 1,000 mark now, and we're very, very conscious of that, which is why these schemes of support are of vital support for our industry and workers alike. So we're seeing that spike as we would have actually predicted. In terms of the recovery and the engagement, we had a department meeting this week, which actually had each of the agency chairs, the 4 agency chairs, finance, digital, business and visit, and we had contribution from them, and we're at the very early stages of that preparation for the economy to hopefully come back, but it will only come back with the support and endorsement of our colleagues in the health department. So we know that it's of financial economic importance that we get that recovery done right at the right time. So there are significant losses of revenues as well that Treasury have very much clearly outlined. So we're very keen that we do that in a measured way. Thank you, Jess. Did you have another question there? Or was that?
I do have a further one, but I don't know if other journalists might want to take
I'll take other questions, more questions in the moment. So if I may move on to Jeff the Mongoose.
Thank you very much, Minister. Both the Department for Enterprise and the Treasury have introduced strategies to support businesses and individuals. And many people will have applied to everything they can as they're as confused as to what they are eligible for. Are the departments communicating, and will those who have applied incorrectly for multiple schemes find themselves in trouble?
Yeah, very good question. I think it highlights the potential confusion, Amanda, with regards to so many schemes. And what we have done is refined it as we've gone along. We've introduced schemes. We made amendments to schemes. We'll likely make more amendments to schemes because we want to ensure that we do capture everyone. So when government closes down a business or closes down an industry and basically removes the ability to earn, we have a role and responsibility to try and capture that. So we are refining the schemes all the time. So are businesses eligible for multiple schemes? Possibly, and it comes down to the individual business more than anything else.
Thank you. And do you recognise that different sized businesses will require different amounts of financial help? A smaller business might be able to cope with £3,000 of help, but a larger one could need significantly more. Do you accept that?
Yes, yeah. Well, different schemes for different purposes, different businesses and different sectors. So we have tried to address that. And again, our interaction with industry is really important and vital. We have a great relationship with the Chamber of Commerce, which I think has over 400 odd members, and a lot of those are actually smaller businesses, grassroots of the economy. And we're listening to them, and they did a tracker for us, very helpful tracker in gaining intelligence and information as to the schemes that we have there. So all I'd ask is those who have applied, please be patient. There could be questions, there could be queries that we need to determine, and but we will try and get to them as quick as we can. And highlight again, we do have officers working right the way through the weekend to try and process these as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tim, fast am I.
Fast am I, Minister. When's a decision likely to be made on the Classic TT and the Manx Grand Prix? We're already getting into the territory where realistically riders are going to really struggle to get enough signatures to have their mountain course licence anyway.
Yeah, good question, Tim, and it's on our agenda, and I would suggest that we will make that decision. If not by the end of this month, early next month, I would suggest we would come to that decision, because clearly, whilst the Isle of Man and our situation might be different to other parts of the world with regards to travel, and we have to take that into consideration as well at the same time. So.
And second question, we've heard obviously about hotels and deposits and potentially reputational damage for the island because they're not getting money back. But what's being done to help permanent B&Bs and campsites?
Well, we've got, first of all, the hotel situation with deposits, you're very well aware of that, which is why we put together the strategic capacity scheme specifically for that industry. We regard it as a strategic asset in terms of what it does for the economy, that being the tourism and the visitor economy. So we're processing those applications as well, and a significant number of those have already been processed, and it'll be up to the individual properties to decide how they deal with that in their own terms and conditions and their legal position. We are aware of many that have already done forward bookings for next year, which is welcomed. We do have some guidelines which we posted online, and the point with regards to campsites, yes, they're not part of that strategic capacity scheme, but they are eligible, and that gets back to, I think, Amanda's question about other schemes that people may be available for. So they're slightly different, I think, in their overhead cost and so forth. So we're directing them to other schemes effectively there. Did you have another question, Tim? Was that your two, was it?
That's two, yeah.
All right. Next up, we got Leanne from 3FM. Fast am I, Leanne.
Good afternoon, Minister. Happy Easter. My first question, if people or businesses don't meet the necessary criteria for one of the government schemes that are available, but they're struggling financially, what would your advice to them be?
Right, to get in touch. Essentially, there are a lot of individuals as well we know are really struggling, and we're picking up on that. And it's between not just us, our department, but also Treasury to try and understand where we can help people. And we do need to also take on board that we can talk about the fiscal challenges, but we know people are struggling mentally too, with these in these living circumstances. And what does this mean for the future? What their financial position will be. So we have had the utility companies come forward and provide support with regards to holidays. Treasury's made it very clear with regards to rates. We're very conscious those bills have landed, through letterboxes. There are those who are still working and can pay, and we obviously encourage you to obviously do that. But if you find yourself in a difficult position, please approach us as government, and we will try and provide some leniency in respect to that. So, and the other point, one of the other schemes which I should and always recommend, please, if you're a business, do talk to your bank. I'm getting regular texts and messages from my bank, which is great. It's helpful, and I think that is very important. And we have now secured the bank loan guarantee scheme, where government is underwriting 80% of that loan, of which there's £60 million worth of value available there. And the other scheme that has got some interest early doors and is quite relevant, especially when I do the shout outs here, is the engineering, and where businesses are adapting their entire business model to this situation. The engineering companies in particular have done an incredible job in addressing the medical supply chain. So I'm going to cover that in the shout outs when I finish off. But I'd like to perhaps give you all an opportunity, if you have any further questions, to raise them. Who wants to go first?
Yes, I'll go first. So I just wanted to ask about the Manx Grand Prix. It's still looking as though it's going ahead in August this year, but I'm just wondering, will your department be actively discouraging visitors if the border restrictions are relaxed by then? Obviously, we don't know, nothing's been concrete, but just wondering.
No, it's a valid question, just the same as Tim, and it's something that it was very much in our minds to understand. I think it's the Southern 100 guys. They cancelled their event in July, and that's not that much further on into August, a month later. So whilst we might have some sort of normality, what we've got to also understand is what's happening globally, and we're very much in mind of that, and what that means to our borders and possible imports. So we're very, very conscious. So we are going to accelerate that decision, I would suggest, and either by the end of this month or very early next month, we will come to a decision early doors.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jess. Tim, I see you. Yeah.
Yes. Just on the whole subject of travel and hotels, B&Bs.
You've gone out, Tim.
Do you think psychologically people will have an issue with travel, which could have a bigger impact on the hotel and tourist trade?
Yeah, good question, Tim. Yes, I do. I think you're right. People will be thinking very, very differently around this whole thing. And you hear the comments, don't you, when you're out walking, and say how lovely it is to right now, the springtime, and you hear the birds, you can see the island coming to life in terms of nature, and we're very, very well blessed here. But I do think, and again, I think the Isle of Man will be an attractive destination. It always has been, going back to the Victorians and to even to the modern day. And that's what's particularly painful for this industry, is because they were enjoying a renaissance and seeing some steady growth, and we really have big plans to really capitalize on that big investment coming in to that industry. But this came along and it's turned everything upside down. But what I do know, just like everything that we do, we will come out of this the phoenix and the flames, and I'm sure we will have a tourism industry. As and when and how that is will remain to be seen. But we will be working very closely with the industry to determine our policies and support in the medium term. Thank you, Tim. Paul, you got a question?
Well, yeah, it's all about why this has come from someone's texted in why banks are not just extending mortgages life by 3 months. They seem to be charging higher interest after that first 3 months. Do you have an answer to that one?
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. I've heard one or two pockets of or isolated situations where banks haven't been perhaps as understanding as they might be. What I do know is that the banks that we have been in touch with have been very supportive of the loan guarantee scheme and given us assurance that with regards to mortgages that they will get support. So if there are individual situations, either contact your bank or feel free to let us know about it, and we will try and use our contacts and influence there to ensure that people do get the right support and advice. But thanks for that, Paul. I think the Dolby Spook, is it? Jeff Mongoose, next.
The Department of Enterprise is asking businesses to take out loans. When will the government take out a loan and invest in infrastructure and other national building projects so that small local businesses won't have to bear the brunt of fees and taxes to pay off these current measures?
Yes, a very good question again. And I would suggest infrastructure is one thing that we can do. We have a very significant budget anyway. We're in the middle. There's been a lot of colleagues that were saying, hey, if we got that construction industry back to working, could we get that accelerate the works on the promenade? And that would be great news for for Douglas, for the hotels, etc. For when we do come back. So yes, our colleagues I know in Department of Infrastructure are looking at their capital works program to see how what we've got to do here is the number one thing here is about keeping that money circulating around our economy. We all know about that multiplier effect, and that's why the whole buy local and everything really has never been more important than it is today. So infrastructure is one of the elements that is under consideration as to how we can accelerate that when we get the green light to get some of the economy back up and running.
Thank you.
Right, who's anyone else? Are we all covered? Looks like it is. Well, can I just... Leanne, 3FM, would you like to have another go?
Yeah, just one more, please. We've had this query from quite a lot of people, so I just thought I'd put it forward. Apart from buying local, which I know you've just mentioned, is there anything else that residents can do to support the island's economy in these unprecedented times?
Yeah, good question. I was communicating this morning actually with the Manx Solidarity Fund, which is, as you know, it's a group of local business people who have put this organisation together to help probably beyond what we can do as a government. And there's a number of different elements to that. One of them is financial, and another one I know is using resource. And there's a lot of resource on the Isle of Man where people are volunteering to help. And I have to say, it for me, this is what is so uplifting and inspiring and really heartening is the comments that do come from people to say, that they're really behind the Isle of Man. We're really behind what we're trying to do here. And I think this is why, we will be resilient, we will be innovative, and we will get beyond this, and we will be successful again as an island. But the community really is shone through very, very strongly. So if I may, I'd just like to cover the shout outs today. So the first shout out goes to Will Folds and everyone at Crowd Shield, a community group which has 16 3D printer enthusiasts making visor components for our health workers. Our next hero is Mark Green and his team at Words and Spaces, who are now using their equipment to make visor screens, and senior workshop engineer Aaron Thompson at Strix, who was working on the assembly, quality control and sterilising completed safety equipment. This collective are currently making hundreds of masks and giving hours of their time, and I thank you for that. I'd also like to give a shout out to Ramsey Grammar School's Alison Skeldon, who is working with all the heads of design and technology to make face masks in secondary schools across the island, including King William's College. Thank you to all them too. And also I'd like to say a thank you to Ian Cowley of Ronaldsway Aircraft Company, who is the lead engineer on the Charlotte Val project, and Michelle Hayward of Discover Diving, who has helped source dozens of snorkel masks from the community. The project has seen the engineering community working with the Isle of Man government to convert snorkel masks into important breathing equipment for our coronavirus patients. Following this breakthrough, the government requested engineers explore manufacturing of protective face visors, with 7 companies taking on the challenge. So I thank you to everyone at Strix, Ronaldsway Aircraft Company, Cortec, DLP, Janty Engineering, Triumph and Swagelock. And with that, I would now just like to once more wish you Caish, Sonny, Dirt, Happy Easter, Good night.
From the first deliveries into Douglas
to stocking shelves with essentials.
We're providing transport for key workers.
We're keeping you informed and delivering services that people rely upon every day.
We are keeping the Isle of Man's
essential services running.
Please help us to help you.
Shop responsibly, consider others,
and stay at home if possible.
For you, for our island, for our community, let's do this together.
For you, for our island, for our community, let's do this together.
For you, for our island and for our community, let's do this together.
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 For you, for our island, for our community.
Let's do this together.